Greetings, everyone. Whether you are listening to this over audio or watching this on YouTube, you are ultimately tuned in to another reading of one of my published articles, this time in MintPress News, published on November 23rd, 2021. And this article centers on the fake Peng Shuai scandal, the Chinese tennis star who was allegedly sexually assaulted and then purported to be kidnapped or missing at the very least. And I exposed in this article how this story was nothing but fake news in order to push an agenda to boycott the Beijing Winter Olympics of 2022. And it really does revolve around a larger new Cold War agenda by the United States, which has been ongoing for many years now and is incredibly dangerous to humanity. If you appreciate my journalism and want to support it, you can do so at patreon.com/Danny Haiphong and subscribe in whatever amount. Your support is very much appreciated in these difficult times. So let's get to the article. The title of the article is Olympolitik. Fake Peng Shuai scandal fuels U.S. effort to boycott Beijing Olympics. The New York Times reported on November 3rd that Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai had published allegations of sexual assault against former vice premier of the People's Republic of China, Zhang Guoli, on the social media platform Weibo. Peng's post was deleted within 24 hours. This led to a firestorm of speculation in U.S. corporate media about Shuai's safety and whether the tennis star had gone missing. The hashtag #WhereIsPengShuai went viral 10 days later after the CEO of the World Tennis Association, or WTA, Steve Simon, called on Chinese authorities to investigate the situation. Prominent celebrities and tennis players, such as Serena Williams, also went public with their concern for Peng. Ample evidence suggests, however, that the scandal surrounding Peng Shuai is nothing more than fake news. First, let's review the since-deleted Weibo post, which was translated and then used in a Moon of Alabama report on this issue. Nowhere in the post does Peng allege sexual assault. Instead, she recounts her emotional experience of having a consensual affair with Zhang Guoli that abruptly ended when he was promoted to the Politburo Standing Committee. After Zhang retired, he contacted Peng and the affair resumed. This appears to be the passage that was misinterpreted as quote-unquote sexual assault. Quote, "After dinner, I was still not willing to have sex. You said you hated me, you said in those 7 years you forgot about me, and you will treat me well, etc. I was terrified and anxious. Taking into consideration the affection I had for you years ago, I agreed. Yes, we had sex. Romantic attraction is such a complicated thing to explain clearly. From that day on, I renewed my love for you." Again, the translation of the deleted post does not provide any evidence of sexual assault, yet the woke liberal class and corporate media ran with the headline that Peng represented China's so-called Me Too movement. Even more egregious are the accusations that Peng went missing following the deletion of the post. On November 17th, CGTN Europe released the text of an email sent to World Tennis Association CEO Steve Simon, stating that she was neither unsafe nor missing and that any further news about her should not be published without prior consent. The WTA and the U.S. corporate media dismissed the email as fake. Global Times editor Hu Xinjin was similarly dismissed when he published a video of Peng attending a teenage tennis match final in Beijing. Photos have since emerged from Peng's WeChat moments this past weekend of November 21st that further call into question claims that the tennis star had ever gone missing. Olympolitik. The U.S. and its Western allies often refer to a quote-unquote post-truth society as being the byproduct of a growth in right-wing politics. Yet the fake Peng Shuai scandal is indicative how the entirety of the U.S. establishment and its allies have laid the foundation materially for a post-truth era in the era of journalism, in the area of journalism. Not a single U.S. or Western-based corporate media source questioned the dubious claims surrounding Peng's situation. The WTA and the corporate media simply ran with the sensationalist story without any verifiable evidence. While fear-mongering and sensationalism are key elements in the corporate media's for-profit-driven model of news, it would be a mistake to remove the Peng Shuai scandal from its proper geopolitical context. the United States is seeking to undermine China through an international campaign to boycott the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing. U.S. President Joe Biden has stated that he is considering, quote-unquote, a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympics. While the form of the boycott is yet to be determined, some have suggested that the U.S. may withhold sending an official delegate to Beijing but still allow its athletes to participate in the Games. The Peng scandal comes amid a flurry of anti-China propaganda that has directly targeted the Winter Olympics. According to journalist Alex Rubinstein, the campaign to boycott the Olympics is led by a consortium of NGOs that have received millions of U.S. tax dollars from the National Endowment for Democracy, NED, a regime change outfit of the U.S. government. These organizations include the International Tibet Network, Students for a Free Tibet, in the World Uyghur Congress. The World Uyghur Congress in 2016 to 2019 alone received nearly $1.3 million from the National Endowment for Democracy. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, along with several Republicans in Congress, endorsed the boycott campaign. Prior to the Peng scandal, boycott campaign activists with the NED-funded International Tibet Network and Students for a Free Tibet interrupted the traditional flame lighting ceremony for the Beijing Games in Greece. National Basketball Association player Enes Kanter followed up this action by pledging support for a boycott of the 2022 Olympics and releasing a set of sneakers that directly target China for allegations of human rights abuses. As Alan McLeod's investigation for MintPress News revealed, Kanter is not only linked to the CIA-backed Gulen movement in Turkey, but also to the Zionist and neoconservative establishment in Washington. Thus, the U.S. establishment's concern for Peng Shuai has little to do about her and everything to do with this larger campaign to delegitimize Beijing in the lead up to the Olympics. The North Korea-ification of China. Sensationalist scandals and fake stories justify the U.S.'s aggressive foreign policy toward China. The United States has shifted more than half of its military assets to the Asia-Pacific in order to contain China's rise. CIA Director William Burns announced in October that the agency would also be shifting focus onto China in order to counter what he said was, quote, the most important geopolitical threat we face in the 21st century, an increasingly adversarial Chinese government, end quote. While the U.S. under Joe Biden has held several talks on trade and climate with Chinese officials, his administration has also escalated tensions over Taiwan and refused to withdraw Trump-era tariffs on the Chinese economy. The Peng Shuai scandal emulates closely the U.S.'s Orientalist coverage of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the DPRK, known in the West as North Korea. U.S. corporate media regularly create out of thin air tall tales about the DPRK and its leadership. These stories are furnished to the establishment media by so-called defectors from the DPRK and are completely devoid of truth. The DPRK's head of state, Kim Jong-un, has been pronounced ill or missing on several occasions, and I cite 3 in the article which you should check out. And this has all been since his tenure began in 2012, so only over the course of 9 years. Kim's aunt, Kim Kwang-hee, resurfaced in 2020 after being pronounced disappeared by a so-called defector more than 6 years earlier. Bizarre lies send a message to the U.S. and Western populace that the DPRK and its people are not worthy of existence. Fertile ground is therefore laid for the United States to continue its economic sanctions regime against the DPRK and keep more than 10,000 troops stationed next door in South Korea. China has undergone a North Koreification of sorts over the past 3+ years. As hundreds of U.S. military bases mount on its doorstep, China has become subject of equally bizarre claims of quote-unquote genocide of its Uyghur ethnic group and a host of other so-called human rights violations. The Cold War-like contrast of a quote-unquote authoritarian China with the so-called quote-unquote democratic United States has become all the more important as American living standards decline and crises such as the COVID-19 pandemic expose the inherent defects of the American way of life. The U.S. is particularly concerned about the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing because of what the Games signify to the world. China will become the world's largest economy within a decade. Not only this, but China spent 2020 successfully controlling the COVID-19 pandemic and achieving key societal markers such as the eradication of extreme poverty, even while the world was mired in a global health and economic crisis. China has also been the only major economy to address climate change seriously, and the Winter Olympics are set up to demonstrate its leadership in renewable energy. The venues for the Winter Games will be completely powered by renewable sources, a feat that the US or the West could not possibly emulate amid political conflicts over infrastructure spending. The Peng Shuai scandal, to conclude, is nothing more than a propaganda false flag meant to worsen US and Western public opinion toward China. It is part and parcel of an information war that complements a larger geopolitical agenda. As the Winter Olympics approach, US policymakers and propagandists will be itching to further bamboozle the public into supporting their aggressive anti-China posture. A conflict with China is akin to suicide for humanity. The possibility of peace, however, only becomes more remote the longer that warmongering propaganda, like the Peng Shuai scandal, is allowed to spread unchallenged. Thank you again for tuning in to another reading of one of my published articles, this time in MintPress News on November 23rd, 2021. This article was titled Olymp Politic, Fake Peng Shuai Scandal Fuels U.S. Effort to Boycott Beijing Olympics. Please do support my journalism at patreon.com/Danny Haiphong, and whatever amount you are able. Your support, of course, is very much appreciated in these difficult times. And you will see me again next time with another reading of one of my published articles. And please do follow me on social media and follow my work in order to be updated on upcoming events, content articles, show episodes of the Internationalist transmission, and the like. And that is easiest done on patreon.com/Danny Haiphong. Until next time, everybody.